I have no intention of allowing the interpreters to leave, so I'll be very quick.
Still, by the way, they've been patient enough and supportive enough. We have, I think, 20 more minutes, 25 more minutes, so we can also conclude the different sessions included in the agenda.
Excellent, thank you. I'm going to focus really on football, but within the framework of sport, of course. Football, as much as it sees itself as an entity apart, is still located within the sporting framework. And I think for me and many others, the interest that football offers is that it is a cultural obsession for many Europeans. And through that obsession, we can send messages, we can create change in a way in which many other interventions will struggle. We can reach young people, we can reach families, and we can reach all sections of the demographic, including new arrivals, those in settled communities, and also look at some old established institutions of Europe that we can mobilize to help in our cause of integration. Just very quickly about us, we, as you mentioned, are a long-standing partner of UEFA. We also work with FIFA. We're very interested, of course, in football as a developmental tool, but as you mentioned, we also do some work to tackle discrimination. And I think it's there where we see football being used as a mirror to society. Much of our monitoring work shows us both the negative and the positive reaction to new arrivals in Europe. We see many stadiums where there are banners being put up by ordinary fans, ordinary people, young people, people from mixed backgrounds who are saying, "Welcome to refugees." At the same time, we see people in some countries who are saying refugees are not welcome. So we have the sort of public discourse being played out inside football stadiums in a very, very acute way. Something which I think allows us an insight which is very interesting, and I think it's always very interesting for me to hear the experiences of local and regional authorities. But the experience in sport is equally balanced, and I think it's something that is a big message from us, that we have to be mindful of everything that we do, of the counter-reaction that sometimes comes and how we can think that through in advance. Now we have I think since the summer of 2015, we started to develop a database which documents projects that use sport to integrate new migrants. And this is, of course, some of these projects have been developed as a result of the new migration wave, if you like, from 2015. Others precede that. But many of them are characterized by grassroots projects where people are beginning just to meet the challenge in their own communities of integrating new migrants through sport. Very simple activities. I think using sport is one of the most basic areas that we can do if we're going to send out messages and get people involved in the activities and the methods that we want them to do. Through this, we identify the methodologies, which actually in the end are very simple, as I say, and we can begin to shape very clearly what those interventions should look like. How can they come about? How do we frame them? How do we fund them, perhaps? And I think there's been a recognition, this is part of an ongoing recognition from many international bodies, including the European Commission, but also the UN, the World Health Organization, of the impact that sport can have both on the lives of individuals, but also of communities. We know that just simply by getting people playing, getting people active, it can be a means of personal empowerment, but also a means of integrating them in new environments, of bringing newcomers to mix with people who are well established. And this is proven in an example I will give you in a few minutes. Now, language learning, I think we can all understand, is a basic necessity for new migrants. It opens the door for everything else that follows. Employment, housing, general well-being in the community. And we've seen football projects that are entirely devoted to teaching new arrivals the language of their host country. It's very easy to do. Of course, the contact points are very important. The way you deal with people is very important. But we've seen this work in many, many countries. Integration, I think once you start to play within a team, you start to play within a structure, you're made to feel welcome. you understand and get to know people of backgrounds different to yourselves. This is very simple stuff, I would say. I hope it's not simplistic, because we have to apply some methodologies, but nevertheless it seems to me to be a win-win for everybody here, for those that are involved in public policy planning, to the migrants themselves, to those individuals who see sport as something that's important to their lives and are already residents of Europe. We see that the design of projects is of course reliant on funding, but you will be surprised on how small the funding required is. Every country in Europe has a network of amateur clubs. In some countries they're more formalized, more codified than others, but every country has them. In Germany, the German Football Association has used that network of clubs and offered them 500 euros each if they can use participation in their club by newly arrived migrants for integration purposes. So they can use that 500 for additional kit, for transport costs, for using, putting on social activities, for putting on language courses. A simple gesture such as putting on 500 euros for amateur teams that then can be used for the purposes of integration alone. And the impact that we've had is being documented now by the DFB, the German Football Association, and the German government. This is on the scale of things, this is a project that has cost something like 500,000 to €1 million, and it's having an incredible impact. Of course, when you start to work with newly arrived migrants, you also know that they have needs, as we've been seeing through the film. So you need also to form partnerships. You need also to understand their specific needs, the referral strategies that you might adopt when you're working with them. And of course, I think this is something that is often missed. We need to be clear that women also benefit from sport. They may not, you may need to make special provision, you may not be able to fit them and integrate them into the club system as it exists, but we can also empower women and make them feel welcome through sporting participation in the same way we can with young men. I mentioned the DFB already as a great example. We also have some great examples going on in Italy, people who are doing work in refugee camps, and in Warsaw. I've been to visit a great example of a project which takes on asylum seekers from Georgia, from other places in the Caucasus, from former places that are closer to Poland in the former Soviet blocs. All of these do amazing work and are now documenting in a proper M&E fashion what their impact is. And I think that we can, if we start from the basis that sport can have an impact, offer facilities, offer support to the existing networks that exist, offer some small-scale funding, there will be a backlash. I don't think we should pretend there isn't, but we can affect a real change, I think, here. It's a very, very easy scenario to initiate. And always through collaboration. I think this is something that might look easy, but we always need to bring in outside experts, those that are involved in sport coaches, managers, sporting organizations, and it's very, very easily done. So I hope there I've given you a very quick flavor of what can be achieved in 5 or 6 minutes. I think that there is real potential in this area. We see some authorities using this potential, others who perhaps could give this real consideration and make this work for them.